Hello, everyone, and welcome to Or This. This is my Monday morning quarterbacking of the scriptures and the sermon for the previous Sunday, and this video is for Sunday, April 21st. The scriptures that were assigned for the day were Acts chapter 4, verses 5 through 12, Psalm 23, 1 John chapter 3, verses 16 through 24, and John chapter 10, verses 11 through 18. This is the fourth Sunday of the season of Easter, and that is often called Good Shepherd Sunday. And the reason is because of the scriptures that come around on this Sunday every year. It's always Psalm 23, and then there's always a passage from John chapter 10 in which Jesus talks about being the Good Shepherd. And there's different references to being the Good Shepherd and Jesus protecting his own and that kind of thing. And then one of the other two scriptures sometimes has some reference to sheep or to lambs or something like that. So this is Good Shepherd Sunday. I wanted to talk a little bit about a connection that I noticed between the gospel and the first lesson. Now, I preached on the gospel, and it was the part where Jesus literally says, "I am the Good Shepherd," and talks about what that means for what he does, and that kind of thing. The hired hand, the Good Shepherd lays down his life. The hired hand, who is not the shepherd, sees trouble coming and will run away and leave the sheep unprotected. But Jesus, as the Good Shepherd, knows his sheep, and he lays down his life for his sheep. And I talked about in the sermon the idea of belonging and how in life we're looking to belong. Throughout our lives, we might struggle with that more in one part of our life than in other times of our life. And that Jesus says, "I know my own and my own know me." And in that way, we belong to Jesus. And by extension, when we belong to Jesus, the Good Shepherd, we belong to his flock. That means we are part of a flock and we are part of a community. And so we always belong to this community of Jesus followers as well. So even if we aren't feeling like we belong anywhere else, we belong to Jesus, we belong to God, and we always belong in this community that identifies as the community of believers in Jesus. But I told the story that comes in John chapter 9, which is a story about a man who's born blind from birth. And Jesus heals him, and he goes to the religious leaders because whenever somebody has an ailment that has made them have to be cut off from the faith community, the religious leaders have to always go to the religious leaders for them to say that they are clean and can be part of the community again. Well, this man, because he was blind, because he couldn't see, because he had this physical issue, was cut off from the faith community. So when Jesus healed him, he had to go to the religious leaders to get their okay for him to be part of the faith community again. Lots of issues with that to start with, right? We obviously, we would never say that somebody should not be part of the church because of some physical issue. So that's problem number one. But problem number two is that when he goes, they're not excited that he's healed. They start to wonder who healed them, who had the authority to heal him. And they kind of mistreated the man. They basically made him an outcast because he was happy about the person who healed him. And he didn't see what their problem was. Unfortunately, although they had a problem, because they were in power, they were able to still exercise their authority anyway. And so the man was cast out again of the faith community. And there's a similar thing happening in the first reading, in which Peter is still answering to religious leaders about this man that he healed outside of the temple. He heals this man who is lame. This man is so happened to be, they call it lame, meaning he couldn't walk. And they healed him, and he was able to walk again. But they healed him in Jesus' name. And so the religious leaders questioned, whose name are you using to heal? And Peter's preaching to them about what's going on and everything like that. But it's very parallel. Jesus gets in trouble for healing. Peter gets in trouble for healing. Religious leaders in both cases are the ones who are causing the issues and kind of butting heads against the power of Jesus coming to bring healing into the lives of these people. And I think that is something to reflect upon as the community of Christ, the risen Christ, the community who has the continued mission of the risen Christ today, is to be aware of the ways in which sometimes we can act as those religious leaders who are trying to be like gatekeepers and keep control over what's going on. And that the healing and the spirit of the risen Christ could be doing stuff outside of our own control, outside of our own understanding, outside of our own comfort, different than what we've done before or what we how we understand things to be. And that rather than digging in our heels like these religious leaders and missing out on the amazing things that Christ is doing, instead we are reminded to be on the lookout for the things that the risen Christ is doing and celebrate them. I mean, I think you could probably understand what I'm thinking is, oh my goodness, these two men in these two situations were they were free to be able to live and to do whatever everybody else was doing. That's a cause for celebration. And here these religious leaders are like, I just see them with scowls on their faces and like, well, who did this? And who had the authority to do this? And yada, yada, And that just doesn't jive with the good news of these two individuals being freed and having opportunity in life that they hadn't had before. So as the church, I think that would be a good attitude to keep in mind, an openness and an ability to celebrate when good things are happening to people, when people are freed from something that was making their lives difficult, rather than being, the word would be curmudgeons. Let's not be church curmudgeons. Let's be celebrative and be able to celebrate life and healing and wholeness and mercy and grace. And so that was kind of what I found interesting about our scriptures, the parallels between the gospel and the first reading. And the reason that is important is to realize that, in other words, the resistance to this, to the work of Christ in our midst, the resistance didn't end with Jesus' ministry. The resistance continues after in the apostles' ministry and continues in the work in the world today. And we have to be in tuned to the work of the risen Christ so that we don't become curmudgeons and not be able to celebrate it when it happens. So those are my thoughts for this week. Please feel free to share your thoughts either on YouTube, on the YouTube comments or on the Facebook comments. And thank you so much for watching. God bless.